Welcome friends to another Stuff Station 1 review from my collection of random items across a broad price range. Items are showcased for their aesthetics, materials, manufacturing or downright quirkiness. Now today's product is the Rolex Milgauss. Now I've done a series of videos that focus and sort of break down the constituent parts of the actual Milgauss itself. Now today what I'm going to be focusing on is the dial, okay, the movement inside the actual watch itself, and that rather un-Rolex like Rolex green crystal. Okay, so if I get the piece out of the box itself, so here we have it. So as I've said, the first sort of focal point is going to be this gorgeous dial here. Now it is a dial that is very un-Rolex like, and I say that because, you know, Rolex is a very conservative brand. It hardly changes its sort of aesthetics. If it does, it will be over a very long period of time. So when they launched this particular piece, it sort of took everyone by surprise a little bit. Now the dial itself is actually made using zirconium. Now mostly in Swiss watch manufacturing, they would probably use just a stainless steel for that metal dial, but here they've used zirconium. Now zirconium is a silvery sort of grey metal which is extremely malleable. It's really sort of ductile, so you can sort of stretch it out, and it's highly resistant to corrosion, and that's why they've actually used zirconium in this instance. And they've treated it further to give the actual dial that sort of gorgeous sunburst sort of effect. And if I sort of move it round, there is sort of no AR coating on this piece, and I don't think many Rolexes actually have anti-reflective coating, but you can just sort of see there the sort of the sunburst sort of patination that you get, and that's one of the things that I love about this piece. If we have a look at the hour minute hands, okay, and the actual indices, they are applied on, okay, so they are separate pieces that have been applied on. Now they are actually made, or it's an alloy, okay. Now Rolex is famous for doing everything in-house, and Rolex has its own foundry, and that's where they will alloy 18 karat white gold with a material called ruthenium. Now ruthenium is a very rare noble metal that belongs within the platinum family, and it's extremely hard, extreme sort of wear resistance, and it has this real sort of silvery sort of luster that one associates with platinum. And because of that alloying, what results is a minimal corrosion over a period of time. Prior to the 1980s, I believe, Rolexes, they were never, the hands and the indices were, the majority of them were actually made from sort of, you know, just stainless steel, and perhaps plated sort of stainless steel, and that over time would degrade and corrode. A lot of people appreciate it because they felt it added to the patina. I'm not one of these people that sort of buys into the whole patina look. I don't like it. You know, I like my things to look fresh and new, okay. So that's why they alloy it with ruthenium. So quite an interesting sort of fact there. Friends, why not subscribe, like and share? Also tap that bell icon. I put out content every week, so your support would be really appreciated. If we have a look at the sort of the ergonomics, the real sort of layout behind the piece, really sort of simple. We've got the classic sort of Rolex Oyster Perpetual Milgauss in the orange, and that's replicated in the actual Thunderbolt Lightning hands, and it really is a legible piece. You know, you can tell the time really well in sort of all different sort of positions. And if we have a look around the sort of the inner rehab, they call it, we've got the Rolex sort of engraving there to sort of deter those pesky counterfeiters, and we can see that it's Swiss made. The only thing that I feel is perhaps not so legible, where you've got the minute track, okay, you've got that sort of light orange against that sort of blue dial. It's not sort of overly visible at times, but it's just a minimal thing that I've picked up on. The actual movement within the actual watch itself is the in-house, so all Rolex watches come with in-house movement, so they manufacture everything, and Rolex is very particular about that. They don't outsource anything, they keep everything to in-house production, and it is the 3131 caliber. It's an automatic, so it's self-winding. It has pretty low sort of power reserve. Okay, it's only 48 hours. I mean, nowadays, you're getting watches and watch movements with sort of double barrels within them that sort of give you a minimum of around, 70 hours of power reserve. I've got a watch that is a fraction of this price, the £6,000, $8,000 dollars that the Milgauss commands, and yet that watch has a much longer power reserve. So, I think with the new movements that everyone is citing that's going to be coming out next year or the year after for Rolex, perhaps we might see longer sort of power reserves. And I believe in the GMT, the new 2018 Baselworld release of the GMT Master 2s, they have the longer 70-hour power reserves, I believe. The thing that Rolex is famed for is the fact that their movements, their watches are chronometer rated, and that's whereby the movement will have a standard deviation of -2 or +2 seconds a day, and that's just absolutely amazing. I mean, you're talking something like this watch will either be roughly about a minute fast or a minute slow in a month. Okay, and I just find that absolutely amazing for essentially a mechanical timepiece. It's just all sets of gears, cogs, springs, levers, all of these things inside there. So it's amazing that you can achieve that level of accuracy. Now, the crystal itself, there's a really interesting story or a rumor behind the color of the crystal. Now, the crystal is in that sort of Rolex corporate green color, and they've never done that before in any watch. And apparently Rolex spent an absolute fortune trying to develop this green color for the actual crystal. They managed it, but Rolex is also very astute and very famous for patenting absolutely everything that it does. So no other watch manufacturer can get their hands on their technology or something that they've taken the time to develop. But in this case, they simply just didn't bother patenting it because it is going to be so costly for any other brand to manufacture crystals with a colored crystal, rather. They just basically just left it, and I love that about this piece, that the fact that it's got so many features that lend itself to being a piece that is so un-Rolex like, from the blue sunburst dial to that thunderbolt, okay, and then to the actual green crystal itself. Now, there is Rolex is sort of patented, I believe, chromalite luminescent material within the actual hour and minute hand and the actual indices there, and I'll do a lume shot for you guys just so you can actually see. I mean, you've got to remember, this is a tool watch, it's not a diver's watch, so the lume is not going to be sort of fantastic, but it sort of does its job, and it's comes in that really sort of nice bluey color, which I really love. I'm not a big fan of the green lume on some of these watches that you see. So that's a breakdown of the dial, the hands, the indices, the movement, and the crystal there. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then please consider subscribing, liking, or having a dialogue by pressing some of the buttons below. So many thanks, and goodbye for now.